In October of 1944, General Douglas MacArthur waded ashore at Leyte. He had promised to return. He returned. What the newsreel cameras caught was the general, the beach, the water, the moment. What the cameras did not catch was the intelligence that preceded him. The advance teams, the radio operators laying wire through mountains where Japanese soldiers still held every significant position. The Signal Corps men working ahead of the main force, establishing the communication lines that an invasion of 60,000 troops would need the moment they touched shore. Those men were in the Philippines before the cameras. Some of them found things that were never filmed. The Japanese had been in the Philippines since May of 1942, 2.5 years, enough time to dig, and dig they did. Across the island of Luzon, across the mountain ranges above Manila, across the hills where American soldiers had built their installations before the war, the Japanese carved tunnels, defensive positions, supply storage, command posts, passage routes designed to let soldiers move unseen across terrain that American aircraft could see, but American soldiers could not yet reach. By 1944, the network was extensive. American intelligence knew pieces of it. They did not know all of it. Nobody outside the Imperial Japanese command structure knew all of it. And inside that network, as the Pacific War turned against Japan and the question shifted from how to win to what to save, something else was moving. The Japanese called the operation Golden Lily, Kin no Yuri, named after a poem the emperor had written. The organization tasked with retrieving, concentrating, and hiding the wealth that Imperial Japan had removed from 12 occupied nations across Southeast Asia: gold, silver, jewels, ancient artifacts, bank reserves stripped from the Philippines, from Malaya, from China, from Burma, from every territory where Japanese forces had held authority. The plan was to hide it in the Philippines until the war ended, then retrieve it. The war did not end the way the plan required. Corporal James Earl Stovall was 24 years old when he found the tunnel. He was assigned to the 36th Signal Construction Battalion, one of the units working in the mountains of northern Luzon in the weeks before the main American force landed. His job was not combat. His job was wire, laying communication lines through terrain that American maps showed as empty and Japanese maps showed as fortified. On December 3, 1944, Stovall and his two-man team were working a ridgeline in Pampanga Province when a section of hillside gave way in the night rain. The collapse exposed an opening. The opening was not natural. It was concrete-rimmed. The concrete was set into the rock face deliberately, then covered with brush and packed earth. Stovall held up his lamp and looked in. He did not go in that night. He marked the position on his field map and reported it to his sergeant, Raymond Keppler, at the next contact point. The two men returned the following morning. What Stovall described in his report, filed December 11, 1944, was a passage approximately 8 feet wide and 7 feet tall, running roughly northeast for an undetermined distance before curving out of lamp range. The walls were Japanese cut, irregular, consistent with the tunnel construction methods his unit had encountered elsewhere. The floor was packed earth, reinforced with wooden planking in sections. Recent planking, the wood had not dried, but at approximately 40 meters into the passage, Stovall noted something that did not match the rest of the construction: a junction. The passage intersected with a second passage that ran at a different angle, and the construction of the second passage was different. The concrete work was older. The method was different. American method, Stovall wrote. The materials look American. He was a Signal Corps man, not an engineer. He knew what American military construction looked like because he had spent years working alongside it. He knew what Japanese construction looked like because he had spent weeks mapping it. The junction was where the two met. He wrote in his report, "The passage at the junction appears to connect to a pre-existing installation. Construction methods and materials are inconsistent with Japanese construction observed elsewhere in sector. Recommend engineering assessment." His report exists. It exists in Signal Corps unit records from 1944, cited in a 1976 official history of the 36th Signal Construction Battalion, compiled by the Army's Center of Military History. The 1976 history references Stovall's December 11 report by date and subject as an example of Signal Corps personnel encountering unexpected infrastructure during advance reconnaissance. The report has an attachment listed in its index, diagram of tunnel structure with materials assessment. The attachment is not in the file. To understand why that attachment matters, you need to understand what was happening in the Philippines in December of 1944. General Tomoyuki Yamashita, the Tiger of Malaya, had arrived in the Philippines in September 1944 to organize the defense. He arrived with orders not just to fight, but to complete the concealment of the Golden Lily sites, the 175 treasure vaults that had been established across Luzon and the other Philippine islands since 1942. The operation was frantic. American submarines and aircraft had been sinking Japanese shipping, which meant the gold that had been intended to leave the Philippines could not leave the Philippines. It had to stay. It had to be hidden more deeply, more permanently. Workers who knew where the sites were had to be silenced. In October of 1944, in a tunnel complex later identified as Site 8, located in the mountains of Luzon, stacked with row after row of gold bars taken from 12 nations, General Yamashita and a handful of senior officers slipped out after a farewell party for the engineers who had constructed the vault. Dynamite charges were detonated in the access tunnels. The engineers, the workers, and everything they knew were sealed inside. The princes had already gone by submarine. Yamashita surrendered to American forces in September 1945. He was tried for war crimes committed by his men and executed in February 1946. He did not reveal the location of the Golden Lily sites. No evidence linked him directly to the buried treasure. The sites were listed as legend, but American intelligence was not entirely ignorant. In 1945, an intelligence officer named Edward Lansdale and a Filipino-American commando named Severino Garcia Diaz Santa Romana reportedly located multiple Golden Lily vaults in the mountains north of Manila. They obtained location information by interrogating Yamashita's driver. The Seagraves, Sterling and Peggy, historians who spent years investigating the Golden Lily operation, documented what they allege happened next. The recovered treasure, they argue, was used to establish a series of what they called black gold banking accounts, 176 accounts in 42 countries. The M Fund, designed to finance American covert operations for decades without congressional oversight or public disclosure. The American government has never confirmed this, but it has also never explained something specific. In 1993, a researcher at the Philippine National Archives found a Japanese military document dated August 1944, 4 months before Stovall's tunnel discovery, a Golden Lily site survey describing a tunnel in Pampanga Province in the mountains above Luzon, characterized in the document as connected to what the original Japanese text calls existing enemy infrastructure. Enemy infrastructure, American-built. The document was forwarded by the Philippine Archive to the United States National Archives. No response was ever received. The forwarding record exists. The American record of receiving it has not been located. Stovall filed his report. Keppler witnessed the tunnel. Keppler was killed at Luzon during the main battle in February 1945. He was 28 years old. The two men who had entered that passage together were reduced to one, and the one had already filed his report and moved on. After the war, Stovall returned to Tennessee. He worked as an electrician. In 1962, a historian collecting Signal Corps oral histories interviewed him. Stovall described the tunnel briefly. He said he had filed a report and assumed someone had followed up. He said he had never heard anything more about it. He said the junction was the thing that stayed with him. American work inside a Japanese tunnel. He had never been able to explain it. Stovall died in 1978. The 1962 interview transcript is in the Army's Center of Military History. The tunnel in Pampanga Province has not been officially excavated or investigated as a historical site. The Fort McKinley Tunnel Complex in what is now Bonifacio Global City in Manila, the American-built tunnel that the Japanese captured in 1942, expanded and used until February 1945, is a national historical site. The portions that were extended by the Japanese before the 1945 abandonment have not been fully mapped. Some laterals, in the words of one government survey, have never been excavated. The December 11, 1944 report, filed by Corporal James Earl Stovall, describes something in the mountains of Pampanga Province that intersected with an American-built passage. The report exists, its attachment does not. The Japanese document describing existing enemy infrastructure in the same region exists. The American record of receiving it does not. The Yamashita treasure was officially dismissed as legend. Edward Lansdale is dead. Santa Romana is dead. Stovall is dead. Keppler was killed in February 1945 and never left the Philippines. The attachment to a Signal Corps report from December 1944, hand-drawn diagrams of a tunnel junction that connected Japanese construction to something that a 24-year-old electrician from Tennessee recognized as American, has been missing from the file since at least 1976, when the official battalion history referenced it without reproducing it. The mountains above Manila are still there. The tunnels are still there. What was inside the tunnel at the junction point where the two construction methods met, what Stovall's hand-drawn diagram showed, what the missing attachment described, what the Japanese document from August 1944 called existing enemy infrastructure, that information has not appeared in any public record. The report exists, the attachment does not. Nobody has explained why.